I will call this meeting of the Juneau Utility Commission to order. Roll has been taken. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ross, second by Cheryl to approve the agenda. Any questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Cheryl, second by Dick to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Any questions on it? If not,
I have a question.
sure.
On the one that you had on the last Thursday afternoon, I believe it is, whatever it was, that one on February 18th, says there was consensus was given to get financial data on option 2. Why wasn't there? Do we have data for option 1, or do we have financial data for option 1, or was there a reason why we didn't also get financial data for option 1?
The consensus at the time we did this was that we were going to look at option 2 was a better one for us. Pretty much the same thing goes for both of them, if I remember correctly. I have that. Some of the information for both of them is the same.
There was information in there, Matt.
There was information on the cost of them.
Yeah, there wasn't much difference between the two.
Okay.
Well, there's a pretty big difference between the two.
Not really.
Yeah, well, it's 10%.
1.6.
It's more than 10%.
It is, but you look at what we're all doing compared to what we were doing. In the beginning, we're just putting Band-Aids on it. We're actually, what we're doing for the few extra dollars is we're adding a whole nother process to help aid in taking care of the future needs of the plant. So basically,
I mean,
option one-
from what I remember of the other meeting that we had, I guess my question is how fast are we going to make up that cost, the extra $1.5 million over this? How fast are we going to make that cost up? Somebody said over time this one would be cheaper to operate. What's the time frame for making that cheaper to operate?
Well, we're in the preliminary process of looking at this also. More of that will come out
Okay.
at the time. This is pretty much just to kind of get you out there, see what we're doing, what we're planning, what is necessary, and then from there, more information is going to be gathered and
Alice,
given.
And how it affects the rates and stuff.
can you
like
take
that.
Dick's thing and make a copy of it for Bart?
Oh, here you can have some.
Yeah, Alan.
I guess the, you know, the consensus probably was to see how the more expensive one is going to affect things as far as rates and how much, you know, how the financials work out on that.
It's not a motion, though.
It's not
to
a
go
motion.
through and
Not a
say
motion.
we're doing
There was
number
no-
two.
No, and I understand that. I
action.
just I'm asking because I wasn't there.
Because you weren't there, yeah.
And I guess on that, if you give me more notice than I had,
Oh, yeah.
like a week, if you give me like 7 days notice, I can work with my employer to make those kind of meetings. But when you guys tell me on a Monday afternoon, I'm not even going to bother asking my employer, because by the time I got the email, it was Tuesday that I could talk to them. So I'm looking at a couple days. If you can give me 7 days to notice on something like this, I can more than make that. Probably I can work, my employer will work with me to schedule
Okay.
around that.
Well, see, what happened actually is there's so many people involved that to get everybody there was an act, was a pretty good act. Everybody's busy.
I'm just saying, it for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I work banker's hours,
Yeah.
good, bad, or indifferent, that's what I work.
No, I
work.
understand. But I
And
mean, we
so
had-
if you give me, a little more notice, I'm just saying, I can work with my employer and they'll work with my schedule, they can modify my schedule, but
Sure.
I'm not gonna do it on really short notice. It's not fair to
That
my
was
employer.
mainly my fault because everything was, I was trying to get everybody together and it was
Yeah.
very difficult. We had, the MSA engineers are busy, they don't have time to do different things. Like, this happened at night, so they have babysitters and things to get for their families and stuff too. So it was a juggling act.
Yeah, and I understand that, I'm just letting you know for future reference, if you can give me a heads up that you're
Mhm.
thinking of doing this, even if you don't have it, all the details down in stone, shoot me an email and let me know, hey, we're thinking about doing this on this night, as far out as you can know, and then maybe I can work with my employer to make sure I can make it, those kind of things, and I'm not asking questions after the fact.
Well, Bart, just, originally it was just going to be the mayor, myself, and Tim meeting with MSA, and at the last, we finally decided that rather than go through and trying to explain it, it would be better to have everybody there that can make it. And so that's how things got goofed up. So I apologize. We will.
There's no need to apologize.
Well,
I'm
there's-
just letting you know that if you
I-
want me, I mean,
I
give
can
me a little
apolo-
more, give me a little more notice, and
I can
like I said,
apologize for that because we didn't get it done soon enough. And I guess that's,
Yeah.
we have to plan better. So, all right, on the question in the minutes of the meeting, anybody else have any questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Public appearances. Mr. Lau.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you gonna stand on this end if you would be so
Yeah,
kind?
I
So-
will do that. Okay, I'm here tonight with my son Jason. First thing I want to talk to you about is I'm going to be stepping back from day-to-day activities at MSA. I've reached my retirement age, and I'm still going to be on board at MSA, but I'm going to step back from day-to-day activities. Jason will be following up on future projects here. The one I brought tonight is the Highland Street and East Oak Street project. The city recently received a grant in a roundabout way from Dodge County through the CDBG program, which is the same program that the city currently was using for the South Main Street project in about the same capacity. So when all is said and done, there's about $560,000 worth of grant funding that will go towards this project. The first page I've shown here is a map of kind of the existing conditions with the project outlined in that red dashed heavy line. It's basically Highland Street south and north from East Oak Grove Street up to South Center Street, and Oak Street from where we left off with Depot Street a couple years ago over to the intersection with Highland Street. The next two pages are kind of a cost estimate that put together to show you the general breakout that we estimate for the different components of the project, being sanitary sewer, water main, storm sewer, and then street. I'm not sure how the funding is going to be distributed, but I guess that's what I'm here tonight to talk about and to answer any questions. What we're planning on is full replacement of the sanitary sewer, full replacement of the water main with water sewer services to the property line being replaced. New storm sewer brought into this area from probably the main line that runs up and down the old railroad corridor, with an intent that it could go further to the east, up East Oak Street, when that portion of this project is completed, hopefully in a few years. Street replacement would be new curb and gutter, new asphalt pavement, new sidewalk, and new driveway aprons. The street would be widened. If you look at both of those intersections, so at Center Street and also at East Oak Grove Street, when those projects were done, the curb and gutter was turned out to a wider width than what it is now, and it was necked in to match the existing. So what we would be proposing there would be a 36-foot wide street from face of curb to face of curb, which would leave about an 8.5 or 9-foot grass terrace and then a 5-foot sidewalk on each side. We talked a little bit about redoing the electric in that area. That could certainly be a part of the project, and we can certainly coordinate that. So with that, I'll just kind of pause for a minute and open it up for questions or comments.
Would the road be infringing on any of the utility poles, do you know? The reason I bring that up is I've been surveying and doing some costs and figuring out a plan to convert this to an underground build. My issue is, which I was going to discuss in my report here, was AT&T is pushing me on going joint if we decide to go this route. And going through my pole attachment agreements and everything else, we have no leverage as far as just aesthetic purposes, but if there's a road construction infringement on the current location of the utilities, then we can force them to go underground. Whether it be new aluminum light poles I just found out, or curb or whatever, then we have leverage as far as, you know, forcing them to go joint with us in this project. So I guess I know we're early stages of this, but I didn't know if offhand if you knew if there was going to be any kind of infringement on those utility poles where we could say, hey, we do need to remove these poles for this reason, not just aesthetic purposes.
Yeah, I do not know. It's too premature at this point. We really haven't done any layout other than really in a conceptual format, just so we can get some cost estimates. So that would probably be one of the first items that we could identify, is how that new street would fit in with the existing utilities.
Okay.
Mike, don't you think 36 foot on Highland is excessive?
I don't know. That's to be discussed, I guess, with Public Works. It's kind of been our city standard all along. Certainly if there's driveways that can accommodate parking off-street, that's certainly a benefit. And I believe that's probably the case here. I think most of these have decent driveways that they can park off-street, so it could certainly be narrowed.
What do we do in Depot?
And Depot was 36 foot wide.
It was 30?
Same thing, yeah.
There's a lot of traffic on that street.
You know, yeah, on Highland or Depot?
Highland.
Okay, well, on Depot I know there was, and
I'm just talking about the hill that you've got to contend with on the east side of the street, having a narrower street or shifting it more towards the west would certainly alleviate that warping of the road.
yeah, that's going to be one of the challenges that we were faced, just because the east side is high and the west side is low, basically, and you've got to make that transition somehow. If the terraces were wider, you're right, they would give us more room to
Right.
take care of that transition.
Nothing
Again,
worse than turning into a driveway and virtually bottoming out, trying to get up the hill there.
yeah,
And I hate when the road is warped and tip so dramatically too. I mean, you're almost, on that Zietlow property, you're almost looking at a retaining wall, aren't you?
I don't know, again, that's probably an item that we're gonna have to get into once we start doing the design and actually pick up the elevations out there from side to side. But it certainly looks like there's some dramatic areas where there is probably at least a couple feet of difference in elevation, if not a little bit more, from sidewalk to sidewalk on some of the sides there.
Yeah, Kunz's driveway's the same,
Yeah, Quincy's probably is too, he's pretty steep there.
that's pretty steep.
And Quincy might have, is he the one, he might have an alley that, it's an old alley that goes
That's on the other side,
through there,
next
Yeah.
property to the south.
next property south.
Right. But Quince's property is fairly flat from the terrace to the front of the house.
Yeah, but his sidewalk seems like it's up high compared to
Yeah.
the curb. His driveway
Right.
goes up pretty steep there.
Well, if you turn the street out, that can all be, rectified. All new sidewalk and stuff's going in there. I mean, it's just dirt.
It can, but I guess kind of like to minimize walls and other things that just add to future maintenance costs and extra costs to the project, but
They can all be sloped.
those are all design
You got
elements.
streets to the south and to the north that are that wide, so that could choke that one down. Like I said, there's a lot of traffic on that street. People wait, and the cars are parked on one side, they have to wait to pass.
Well, that's true, but I just thought with Depot being wider, that we could save ourselves some aggravation with those elevations by going to a narrow street, 34 feet, 32 feet, whatever.
Yeah, I would say probably 95% of the streets we've done in the last 20 years have all been this 36-foot wide. We narrowed it down up there on Downey and Leonard, and there's a couple of them that are wider, like South Main Street, not in front of the cemetery and the school, and the church there, that's wider. And also on Western Avenue, we made that wider just because that's kind of a thoroughfare on the west side of town by Piggly Wiggly there. But for the most part, all the other streets that I can think of that we've worked on have been 36-foot face to face.
Is this parking on both sides?
It works well for that, yeah. So, I guess let me ask Cheryl or Dan, has the city talked about this being a 2021 project? Yes? And funds are available then to continue?
Tomorrow night, there's that discussion.
Okay. Have you discussed with the utility then how that funding would be arranged, or is it all going to
I was kind of waiting for you to
throw
meet
these
with
numbers
this
out there?
group, yeah, to get some numbers together and what have you, so.
Okay.
We've got that grant money, to give us a jump start anyway, but the rest of it we're gonna have to borrow.
Yeah, like I say, I think when we net the whole thing out, the grant, there's about $560,000 roughly there that we're gonna end up with. And when we worked with the county on that, City of Juneau did receive the most money out of that fund. There was 3 communities that received money. City of Juneau, City of Beaver Dam, I think got about 500,000. And who was the other one, Jason? Oricon. They got what, about 400,000 or something?
Yeah, that sounds right.
But those are the aggregate numbers. Then there's also a 20% contribution.
Right.
So in the City of Juneau's case, the grant award was 700,000, but there's a 20% match. So they had to pay 140,000 into the county. So really the net is 560, and these other communities are going to be netted less as well. But I just kind of gave the aggregate amount. So I think it's a great opportunity. We're basically building a project for 50 cents on the dollar, I guess, if you consider this a $1 million plus project.
Do we have enough fall with the or the storm sewer to get halfway or 3/4 of the way up Oak Street then?
Yeah, Oak Street right now pitches curb and gutter wise that whole way, so it comes down. So there is pitch on the street, and we would just follow that with the storm sewer pretty much. with the intent that someplace along East Oak Street, we would try to get into the backyards on the south side of the street where there's flooding problems that have been persistent over the years, and kind of resolve that problem as well. Right now, there really is no storm sewer on Oak Street. It's at this intersection, but that whole length of dead-end street closed by curb and gutter all the way down to this intersection.
What are you proposing for running up that street for storm?
I'm guessing that it's probably gonna be an 18-inch, but again, we haven't really done the design on that yet.
Okay. So do you have costs in here for storm?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that's probably worth talking about, and is really probably not important to the utility here, but at some point, if East Oak Street is ever gonna go to the east, I think we need to figure out how we're gonna end that. If we're gonna put a cul-de-sac on the end, or if we're gonna try to make the connection out to Center Street. There is a half of a right-of-way there going out to Center Street at the very end of this project. But again, it's kind of an awkward situation for our maintenance trucks and our snowplows. When they get down to the end of that street, there's really nothing there for them to turn around, and it's kind of awkward there.
We'd have to acquire property, would we not, to be able to build a cul-de-sac over our water main out there?
Yeah, probably in that field there, whoever owns that field now. I don't know, is that still Goldman out there, or?
It's my grandma.
Nice.
Water main here, I'm thinking is gonna be replaced with an 8-inch. There's a 4-inch there now. That'll be upsized to an 8-inch. The 10-inch clay sewer will be replaced, probably like in kind there, with a PVC, same size. And then pretty much new storm sewer. Any other questions?
We have no intentions on running any sanitary west of the intersection of Oak and Highland?
No, but I can stub something out, I guess. There's no need for it now. Doesn't mean that there wouldn't be at some point in the future. The houses on the corner there, on each of the corners, are already served from Highland Street. So there would have to be something coming in behind them, and it might even be closer to come from Depot Street than at
Did you
that
stub
point.
something in on that intersection?
I think we did, just out of the manhole though, but not very far.
Okay. Well, then,
And we could do the same thing here, just in case. It's just another hole in the manhole that we would plug up.
well, I guess it'd make more sense to come from Depot, seeing how that's the unused property.
Yeah.
West of the rec trail, so it would make more sense to tie it into Depot than have the expense going all the way back to
Is
Highland.
there really any need for it, Dan? There's nothing really gonna be there.
You've got the two co-op properties, you don't know what they're gonna do with that, if they
The fact
subdivide
is,
it or what
That
have
can all
you.
be serviced off at Depot.
If you go that way, but you wanna be ripping open brand new street that you put in 2 years ago?
Well, I mean, if you put properties all along here, you can't bring them all down to Oak Street.
There is already a couple services tapped in on the fertilizer plant, the south side there. The ones that they had, but they're not substantial, they're just residential size services. I don't think, do we do anything on the feed mill side?
No. The problem is we run into this all the time, is you make a guess where this
Yeah.
thing
never
is supposed
worked.
to be, you put it in, and then it's in the wrong spot later, and you don't use it anyways. And 8 or 9 times out of 10, that seems to happen.
I guess break that out as a cost at least, so that we know where we're at on that, on what that extension would be off of Depot to service those co-op properties.
Oh, off of Depot?
Yeah.
Okay.
I certainly don't think it's necessary to extend it all the way from Highland.
No, I don't either. I guess I would question on Depot whether you'd actually come down the street or you'd actually stub in a Y along Depot somewhere and not come down Oak Street. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, depending upon, somebody fronts Oak or... That's a lot of real estate along that street there, that could be divvied up in lots or what have you. a utility trench is still gonna be, for a service trench, is a lot less damage than if you gotta go back and pick up the main line sewer.
Right. Okay.
But you don't know offhand how far you did stub it in, you just think it's stubbed it out of the manhole.
Yeah, yes. Anything else?
Have you ever, with projects elsewhere, created some easements right behind the sidewalks for certain utility boxes?
Yeah, we do that kind of often, sometimes for like electric utilities, they'll put in their transformers and their junction boxes in that area.
Okay.
Usually like a 10-foot wide
Okay.
easement.
'Cause I know for this project, there's probably gonna only be 3 places where we'd have to find a place for right behind the sidewalk rather than in the boulevard, where it's not really protected by anything, so.
Okay, good enough.
Are you available tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night? Sure.
We have a finance meeting tomorrow night.
Okay. What time?
6:30 we begin.
I'll bring the same stuff.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. Monthly business. Approve the vouchers and checks.
So moved.
Motion by Ross. Second by Dick. Any questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Prior month's income statement. Anybody have any questions or concerns on that? If not, we will move on. Council acts affecting utility. Resolution 72, 2020, approve East Oak Grove Street Light Project, 2021.
When will that start, do you know?
I
Just that
ordered,
information?
by another 9 weeks for the transformer to get here.
Okay.
All right. And next one is consumption and loss.
Tim, your numbers are down. This is good, thank you.
Isn't that wonderful?
I normally get on you, so I gotta thank you.
I was waiting for you.
See you next month.
Now stop.
Short month.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Review totals of delinquent customers. And some of that is clearing up a little bit, but 10,000 more than last month.
Have we heard anything more on moratorium? Okay.
Still April 15th, subject to change.
Understand.
Anything? Anybody have anything on that? Kylie's been working on it. I talked to her just today. She's gonna give me some numbers on some stuff. So, all right, reports of officials, utility accountant.
You. Well, we put in our cash and loans to make sure everybody's aware of where we sit. I do want to point out that we still have a deficit in sewer, even though last year we cleared that up. We need to get that rate study done to change things around. So if we look at borrowing, I think your plan was to borrow enough to pay the water back and then probably cover this deficit.
Right now, we're making two payments, right, on two different loans, correct?
So we're paying the electric back from a few years ago. The electric lent money to sewer, that's being paid back monthly. Water is just sitting there waiting for the next borrowing. That's how we left that last year.
And we're behind what, 122,000
Yes.
this year?
Yeah, 122,813.
So roughly, we're about $740,000 behind. And the street project is 162,000. So, yeah, 162. So I mean, we have to do some serious thinking on what we're going to do in order to pay for everything. So, unless anybody comes up with some money they want to donate to the utility, would be really nice. So, anybody have anything else? Any questions or that on the money? All right. On the scholarships?
We've received 3 applications so far from the high school kids who are going to college.
So that'll be next month?
In May, I believe we
Yeah,
present
in
that
May.
in May.
So, is that everything then?
So our audit is this week, starting Wednesday. It'll be virtual, so not sure how that'll go.
And
Yeah,
this is Alice's last meeting.
But I'll probably
Well.
come to the project and plan.
I
I'll be
told
done
you,
in a month.
we couldn't retire until I did. All righty. Thank you. All right, electric superintendent.
First up, I have the discuss possibly approve the South Highland project. We won't be approving anything, but I just wanted to talk. Mike just came in, so that was some more insight of what I didn't have to begin with. But I got some information from Sean and other department heads, Scott, that this project was going to be going forward. And so I've been doing some research and getting some things organized. And I have some projected costs, $44,199.50 from Cooks. The contract in for boring, and that'd be 874 feet of secondary mains, and then 634 feet of services, and 1,023 feet of primary. I've contacted the communications along that road. We have attachments, both AT&T and Charter. Talked to Charter. Charter's on board. They said, let us know who you're contracting and we'll go joint with you. And then AT&T said, well, this sounds like a legal issue. Do you get more information? And well, obviously at the time I don't have any of the project prints on it at all. I made some contacts through 2 other utilities as far as what leverage we have with situations like that, where you have another utility on there that is against going underground, and they said basically nothing is, unless you have a reason why the street project would infringe on the utility codes. That's why I asked that question to Mike. I read through our pole attachment agreement, and there it says if we want to come off the poles, that we have to sell the poles to them and they can stay in the ground if we don't have a reason to take those out. So I guess I'll be working with Mike on this as we continue. There's some other major concerns with this project too. Is I know we talked last time at my meeting was about lead times on transformers and wire and Petroflex. I did place order for some of the material just because it's material that we're going to use no matter what, like 4-aught primary, 2-inch petro. We should have enough transformers for this project if we go with it. But that's just going to be another bump in the road along this project. So that's really all I have as far as update on that. It's all coming last minute as far as this, so we're trying to work our way through it, and hopefully when I have more information I can have a more detailed map of what I'm going to propose then for the electric. But total cost $69,199.50. I didn't look back at our budgeted, what we had budgeted from this year's budget for cable replacement, but I'll figure that out for our next meeting. So that's all I got for that at this time. Bucket truck went in for repair. We had that inspection a few months back, so that went in for hydraulic line hose replacements, and our cradle was cracked, so that has to be fixed, and some other minor things, so hopefully we'll get that back soon. We had a street light fault on Jewel Street. Currently there's 3 lights that are out. We cleared snow away from that stretch so that it can melt off and that we can fault locate that hopefully tomorrow with the warmer weather. Hopefully that clears it off where we can do that. We did do 12 lights this month. We had 1 service main and socket upgrade on Highland. We ordered the materials for a 480 street light conversion for the city. I expect that we're just waiting on that transformer, which should be here in 9 weeks, so we'll see though. That new handheld for water meter installations, had some training on that, just waiting for our finalized install software for doing the marriage files and things like that for installing the water meters. But I have went out and used it for troubleshooting water meters that weren't communicating, and it works well. It has a further reach as far as reading meters that are in basements like Clearview and the county building. Our west service door was not working. We couldn't get it locked. The door was warped. So we ended up having Hometown come in and replace that. They did that today actually. They were the quickest to get in, and I didn't want to leave that door not secured overnight for too many days. In the meantime, we did put, well, when I was watching the cameras, checking those the next days, but we didn't have any issues, but we got that fixed. So fixed our last hot spots that were found during our thermal reading. There's only 2 other ones after the fact that sensient cutout broke 2 months ago. So we got those done, and then our dissolved gas analysis on our substations came back and everything was good. That's done on an annual basis, so that all checked out. That's all I got.
All right, does anybody have any questions of Nick?
Nick, your biggest concern for the Highland Street project is getting transformers in time, or all materials?
It's all materials. Most materials all have the 16-week lead time. There are some specific things like our fiberglass products, like our 12 points and our transformer pads, things like that. We're having an extended lead time. I believe, I checked inventory, we should have enough to complete this project. My concern is
What if?
East Oak, or if we do East Oak, we need to plan ahead. And what ifs too, because I've had things that said there were 16-week lead times and they're turning into 38. They send you an email and they're saying it's an extended lead time. So in 32 weeks, that puts us,
Right back into snow.
yeah.
Yep.
So I'm hoping we don't get to that point, but
I'm asking so that we can, you know, as a city, on the city side, to be aware that just because we say we're doing the project, you can't leave people without power.
And-
That's like a no.
and this is also something too, you know, this is old infrastructure. Does it have to go underground this year? No, it doesn't. We could do the street project if it doesn't infringe on the poles and do it at a later time, or we leave it overhead and we just replace the poles as that goes. That's just kind of been, this is our last 2 oldest circuits in town, is East Oak and Highland. It made sense to go underground, but that doesn't mean we have to do it, because we're in tough times right now where we're having these long lead times. So, I mean, as I gather more information, and, you know, like I said, I did order a lot of the stuff, but we're going to use that no matter what, whether it's for this project or not. So, I guess it's just going to be, as I get more information, we can decide if we're going to go with it or not. I mean, I got the quotes here from Cooks. They already know the plan. It's trying to see if we can even get AT&T on board, because if we can't get AT&T on board, or don't have an avenue to force them to go underground, to me, you know, it's not going to make sense.
No.
Because there's going to be poles there, old poles. I mean, are you going to put aluminum poles up with streetlights and have those poles still there? No, that's going to congest that tears too much. And so there's a lot of variables right now that, do we go one direction or do we leave it right now and, you know, just replace the poles as they need be down the road, which that might be the way we go. It's obviously a lot cleaner look when you go down Depot and there's no, on North Depot and there's no poles anymore, everything's underground, but that doesn't have to be the avenue we go. This is just, you know, a breakdown right now.
Is that poles versus no poles contingent upon your getting equipment or not?
No,
No.
Okay.
Nick and I had met on a Saturday and discussed this issue once he found out that he was getting fight back from the phone company and what have you, and I threw a couple things out that could clean up that area where we wouldn't have to have all that three-phase overhead. We could attach, go through the underground to the 69 line and attach to the underbuilt there. That would eliminate the overhead three-phase, and Nick could run single-phase down there overhead and keep all the services all intact, and just put the road crossings in for now, the underground road crossings there. If we do go underground, at least there'll be pipes from one side of the street to the other, the boulevard area, to be able to do that. That's a very economical way to do it. He would have to secure an easement to get that one three-phase run there, because we have three-phase that goes down the north side of East Oak Grove Street, the circuit along those backyards all the way out to Glass Floss out there, and then comes back out to the street and what have you. So if we could eliminate that overhead three-phase stuff, that would clean it up quite a bit. And if he was forced to keep the wood poles there, and street lights could remain on there, the overhead services could remain on there, and then could be converted to underground at a later date when we get done fighting with the phone company, I guess. I find it hard to believe that they would have that many customers with landlines anymore along that stretch, but might surprise you too.
Probably why they don't want to.
oh, I'm sure.
That's probably why they don't want to.
I'm
It's
sure
not
that's
profitable.
definitely the case. It's a
Mhm.
it's a stagnant business right now, the phone company, and
No,
They
that's
get-
why they
they're
don't
not
wanna do
making any
anything
money.
with the wire.
right. So we have options. This is obviously cleanest, best looking option. As I get more information from Mike and more specifics, then we can move forward with this. So
Thank you.
All right. And nobody has anything else for Nick? If not, Tim?
Okay, as you all well know, the weather has been brutal. We've been battling a lot of freezing pipes the last part of the complex at the wastewater plant for the last part of January and February. It's a daily battle. Takes a lot of our time to keep things flowing. I had an electrical problem at Lift 2 again during extreme cold on Sunday morning a week ago. Lost the neutral wire to the pumping vault. Dan was up there and reestablished the ground utilizing an equipment ground to make it work again. This is a very temporary repair. We'll have to get this repaired permanently as soon as the weather breaks. Guessing we're going to have to dig up that conduit and put a new conduit from the telephone pole where the controls are hanging on there to the vault. I received a call from Dave Beal on Tuesday the 16th at 2:45 a.m. He had received a call from a resident of South Highland stating she had no water pressure and thought there was a water main break in the area. I went over and investigated. I spoke to the resident and discovered that their lateral was beginning to freeze. I instructed her to open faucets wide open and let them run until water pressure returned to full flow, which it did in 15 minutes. I instructed her to cut the flow back to very little trickle for a while, for a few days. She called me back a couple days later and she said, yeah, everything's fine. She said, I'm going to turn it off. So everything's good there, and I haven't heard anything from her since. I've ordered new computers for the treatment plant, for the SCADA system. This is a budgeted item. They are 9 years old now. Experienced a problem yesterday with the main PC lost communication with the PLCs. The computers, basically with a lot of stuff, are just monitoring what the PLCs are doing. PLCs do have control, but if they don't see the PLCs and something goes wrong, they don't call us and letting us know something is wrong. Working on getting more of our street plans on the computer. This is helpful whenever engineering firms call for information. Just had an engineering firm call about South Fairfield by the automatic PET for their next expansion project. I want to plan for the water system in the area. I wasn't able to get anything but our street plans that we have. He wanted an as-built. I didn't have anything. I had called Mike. To my surprise, I thought that they had been involved with that, but that must have been like Donahue or what's that? I can't think of the other one right now. With there's two different firms. He mentioned Donahue was one. So I wasn't able to get anything that way, but the plans I had were adequate enough for him to get the information he did. So, Jim Wild is painting at well 2, painting the pump room, ceiling, floors, water test lab, bathroom, and filter room floor. All that was in pretty bad shape. I got dinged on it the last time that there was a audit here from a sanitary audit from the DNR. So that's what prompted that anyways to go in the budget for this year. Well 2 is going to go back online soon. We're getting that prepared. Hopefully it stays low with the radium issue. Otherwise we'll be facing some more money woes. Saddle Mechanical has been here this last month. Oh, and the air in here is pretty decent tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, today when he's painting, the heating system is dual purpose with the filter room and here, so it was ingesting the paint fumes, just making it pretty miserable.
We all went
in
home
here.
with migraines.
You're gonna have a great time.
So I came down and put plastic over all the return vents and the air vents that go to that room, so it would stop ingesting those nasty fumes. So Sabo Mechanical has been here this last month and has finished replacing all the leaking cast iron drain lines on the north end of the plant. So we're in good shape there. A lot of those were cracked and leaking, and it was pretty sad. Water system cross connection report was submitted to the DNR that we contract out. That's a yearly thing I have to submit to the DNR. The guys worked on clearing the snow from the fire hydrants as I reported last month. They finished up on it with some help from Joe from the DPW. Peter has installed many new marker flags to the hydrants that are prone to getting buried with snow, which up to this year hasn't happened very often. Had IDs made at the Juneau PD. We all wear those now. Looks pretty cool. There was a meeting on Friday, February 12th at City Hall about future street projects. I was not able to attend being ill from the first COVID immunization I received. I was sick for 2 days. I really don't know how any of this. I don't know of any other streets that are short stretch on the industrial drive, other than a short stretch on Industrial Drive, which is between the detail shop and Animix, that has many patches in the water main. This pipe is sand cast and it's very weak. I informed Scott of this. He had asked about East North Street. The city is looking to repave that area in the near future. I said I know the condition about that street. It doesn't seem to be that old, but I can have that televised this year. He's looking for areas to televise to figure out if we need to do anything. If they're going to pave that street, that would be a good idea to do that. Also, West Street, from Center Street to the dead end, they're talking about doing something with that, so I'll have to have that televised to see what the condition of the infrastructure is underneath that street. DMR was submitted on time. We have met all limits despite the issues we are having with our analyzer. We still are performing a lot of manual phosphorus testing in the lab to keep handles on the phosphorus removal process. I have discussed this analyzer issue with Tom Mulcahy from Mulcahy Shaw. This is the company, for those of you that don't know, we have purchased this thing originally back in 2016. I have decided not to waste any more time on this piece of equipment trying to make it work. As reported many times in previous months, I've been battling with this issue with the analyzer for a long time. Mulcahy has been trying to fix it. They brought out a tech from YSI back in December with no success. YSI then took the unit into the factory for repair and making adjustments. They claimed they had it fixed. It lasted 2 days and failed again. Mulcahy was out again and got it working, but the unit still is inaccurate. A deal has been made. I have made a deal with them to have the newest YSI analyzer, which utilizes some of the pieces from the other one yet, which has saved some money, to have that installed on a trial basis for 6 months. I want to see how this thing works before we buy it. This way we can see, you know, if it's gonna work before we purchase the thing. Having given a much reduced price for the unit sells for $23,000, they will get it to us for around $13,000. So that'll help. And Watertown has one of these installed, and they had the same issues that we're having over time, and the new one that they have now is working pretty good. So Tom has agreed to give us that for 6 months without paying for it, just today. Spent a lot of time this month on lead and copper. A lot of time was spent filing reports the DNR is required. Notices were sent out on utility bills informing customers of the lead issues. You probably all have seen those. Bifold brochures were sent with the bills explaining the issues in Juneau. I handed out copies of public information bifold brochures to public buildings, schools, daycares, medical clinics, county buildings, etc. I have put together and placed information on the utilities website explaining the events leading up to this notice, labeled lead updates from the superintendent, lead regulations and what you should know, does my home plumbing contain lead, lead and drinking water brochure, and lead public education brochure, which gives a lot of information, again, especially on what you need to know if you would like to have the water in your home tested. Next step requested by the DNR is taking our water further for its corrosion qualities. We may have to add chemical in the near future. I've had only a few phone calls from concerned citizens about any of this. Most people I talk to understand after all the things I've written and handed out. And some of those things I compiled the information for by myself. There wasn't too much out there that really explained our situation. So if any of you have looked at that yet, if you haven't, I'd urge you to. As you all know, we have had a meeting at the treatment plant on Thursday, the 18th at 4:30, on the future upgrades to the treatment plant. Thank you all for attending. I hope it was very informative for all the issues we are facing, and that we can move forward with a good plan to address them. If you have any questions or need to tour the plant again, feel free to ask me. And the last thing I got, I spoke to Tom Unke in the middle of the month. He had a first draft put together and has mailed it to me a week ago last Friday. I've given a copy to Mac and to Dan for review. I have reviewed the document. It needs work. Spoke to Tom again today. It appears that he does not have a copy of the most current contract. So he was
Is that what we have?
Yeah, I think you gave him, I don't know, I think he's got, from what he was explaining to me on the phone, he's got something that was drafted way back when the plant was built. Because the verbiage and thing he's got in here doesn't match anything to what the current contract is. And when I told him about what was actually worded in the current contract, he says, I've never seen that. So I don't know what happened there. So he's working off a contract that was drafted back when the treatment plant was built. This is why the words in the document are not what really need to be. So I've got copies of all that, what he has. If anybody wants to see this, I may put some copies together of what that his draft looks like, and I have highlighted in this copy of it what verbiage in there I don't think needs to be in there, because he's got things that it's a joint wastewater treatment facility. It is not a joint facility. It is the Juneau Utilities Water Treatment Plant. So if any of you, you can take this along and read this. Here's a copy of the current one we are working on. I brought some of those. And then, yeah. So if anybody would like to do that, I can hand these out and you can view those and give me your thoughts and ideas. So I'll hand those out. This is our current contract. I bet I didn't print enough. Maybe I did. Oh yeah, we got lots of Nick, I'm sorry you have to come up with me tomorrow.
I didn't get one. I gave mine to the mayor.
Oh, well,
You know what?
you actually have one.
I do.
Yeah,
Of the one he's proposing?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, here's the current one. I don't know why. Well, there's not enough. I had 5 of each, or 6. And this is where I just highlighted things I don't think it needs to be changed.
This one I have
Yeah.
That's one of the highlights over here.
So, if anybody get one, I can print some more, but,
I did,
okay.
one with the highlights.
Yeah, let me just-
This is the current and these are the proposed.
Yeah.
All right, anybody have any questions of Tim? If not, we will move on. President, after COVID last month, I did some checking on fluoride in the area and found out that Kleiman, Lowell, Reeseville, Lamira, I believe Eustisford, they do not add fluoride. Mayville, Horicon, Beaver Dam, and Juneau are the only ones in the county that
Maple
do.
does not anymore.
Mayville doesn't?
Nope, they just yanked theirs too. They're done.
Okay.
This I did something on the CDC's website, and I just did the bordering counties, which it tells what communities do and do not add.
They do, and there is no requirement that you have it. But the health department, when it was put in here, we had 2 dentists in town. At present, we have none, so they're kind of letting it slide.
This is a copy of our current,
That's the way to handle it. You get it the way it is.
this is our current ordinance, how it's read.
So that's what I found out on that. I am doing some the checking and getting, with the help of the wonderful staff we have in the office, I'm getting material stuff from them, and they're doing very quickly. They get it, most of the time she's got it before I even know it. I want it.
I printed this map, which is from the American Cancer Society, which tells the pros and cons on why we shouldn't add the junk.
So, other than that,
I do
been
have a comment.
doing some.
Can I add a comment quick?
Sure.
Am I allowed? One of the things I was gonna say is, I don't know if Tim mentioned it or not, but in our well houses, right, currently the chlorine and fluoride sit next to each other. And I believe at the last audit, it was mentioned that they need to have containment areas or double wall tanks. So that if you do have a spill, if either of those mix with each other, it can produce a pretty toxic gas that can be fatal to employees. So, I mean, given the situation that the utility is in, if we don't have to add fluoride, that would be a money savings. And if you don't have to get the containment tanks, if you just eliminate the fluoride, you'd have more savings. So, I mean, that's another thing to consider because it is a safety hazard. We do need the containment areas, which we don't currently have.
Also,
And, you know,
Tim and I talked about this too, and should we, with the way the heating is done in this building, if that leak would happen in the well house, by the time we noticed it, we'd have deceased employees.
you could very easily.
It-
Would be
it's
in
very-
here too. We
it's
just found
very-
out with the paint fumes.
And it would be very quick. So, I mean, we don't need to,
What was the combination, fluoride
Well,
and?
yeah, I
chlorine?
think, yep, if you mix a chlorine and an acid, it produces, they call it like mustard gas, and what it does is it draws all the oxygen out of your lungs. When I worked at Saputo, it actually happened to one of the employees I worked with. He lost 70% of his lung capacity in less than 5 minutes of being in there. So, it happens fast.
it's a chlorine gas.
Hmm.
So what, you know, Peggy, kind of, thank you for bringing that up. I was going to do that, but I mean, what happened with our audit with the DNR for we had last year, I believe. She brought that up about the containment. So I did some research on that, and actually containment, we're grandfathered. We wouldn't have to build any kind of a containment wall. So what we do need to do is we need to put in double wall tanks. So basically what I do is buy a tank that's a little bit larger, it's thicker than the other tank inside of it, which would satisfy that requirement.
I missed
But she's right, the two get together, it's a mustard gas, and I did say this to Mac. The heating system here is shared with the well house and the offices, and that would come in here pretty quickly. So you walk in that door over there, let's say the two chemicals got together before you took one step in, took one whiff, you'd be in bad shape.
What do we gotta do to ask the city to get rid of this ordinance?
Just gotta ask and send it through council.
It's a resolution,
It's a resolution to
a
change.
change of ordinance.
Do I need to make a motion to do that?
Is there action?
It's not an actionable item, but we can take
Yeah.
it to council for.
Definitely a safety item.
The other thing is, why isn't the door between the well room and the pump house closed? You're not sharing a heating system with the pump house where this chemical is stored.
No, it's not. I mean, that's something that's always been left open, I guess.
There's the solution right there. You keep
Well,
that door closed and you won't
But
be
in well
drafted
one,
in-
you wouldn't be able to do that because there's no
No.
separation.
Well, one, we don't have
Oh,
that
we're
issue.
concerned about the office space.
Yeah, with your employees inside there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we wouldn't even know, you know what I'm saying? And is there even an exhaust? There's no exhaust fan that turns on when you walk into that building, so,
No, you have to turn on Peggy, it's not automatic.
right.
So. The only other thing that, no, go right ahead.
I'd like to know what the cost savings would be.
It's not a lot. I think,
It's like $500 a year or something.
yeah, it's not a lot for chemical, because we don't put a lot of it in.
But you mentioned something about putting something else in possibly and using that same
I'd
pump.
like to
so
be
we-
able to use that scale and that pump for the chemical we're gonna have to put in.
There you go. Yeah, for the corrosiveness
Yeah.
issue.
And there's a
So yes,
space,
how much are these pumps? How much would a pump?
all those pumps are $300-400. They're not a real big deal, you know, but, it's the scale is expensive, it's electronic, plus that we don't have a space to put another tank, another pump in those, the other two well houses probably, there's no problem with well two over here is an issue.
Yeah.
With this new chemical, Tim, can you still put them together with chlorine?
Yep, that doesn't hurt anything, there's no effects. Yeah.
So cost-wise, we're not
It's
saying,
It's not huge that way, but if we didn't take it out, we'd have to add another pump in our scale, and some more lines, and there's some
Double-wall
cost.
tank.
The wall tanks, there's some cost.
But even that's not a big expense.
That's not really terrible. Right now, I haven't done it because I can't get one.
I'm just,
There's a shortage.
the only reason I'm bringing it up is because, you know, chlorine or fluoride is considered a health benefit for the community.
Well, that's debatable.
Well, I'm
First you-
going by research I did on CDC
First you gotta drink it.
also. But
And you go to the dentist and they say, don't drink it.
Yeah.
Switching it around your mouth, don't drink it.
I'm just saying.
Don't swallow it.
Yeah.
Well,
We've
there's
been
some
adding it
information
for
I
years.
handed you that from the American Cancer Society that can debate that tremendously.
When did this ordinance go into effect, do we know?
Oh, God, that's been a long time.
I think it was updated, decades ago. But I mean, like you said, fluoride was, when we were kids, fluoride was
Yeah.
put in there.
I only believed it did, I
And
don't know if there's any,
CDC still says it does,
I know they do.
you know. I haven't read through the American Cancer Society stuff yet, so I'll look through that, but.
Well, the thing is, there's fluoride in your toothpaste, there's fluoride in your mouthwashes, there's fluoride in all of those things. And yeah, we have fluoride in our water, but how many kids drink our water? I mean, the only benefit with fluoride is to young children. How many young kids drink city water? I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that I know either, because I don't, but I mean, you see more families nowadays with bottled water than what you see, you know what I'm saying? I mean, and even at the school in town, I don't know what they have for water there. Do all the kids just drink out of the bubbler? Because we see-
The bubblers are shut off right now.
Yeah, not right now. They don't
Well,
right now.
There you go. You know what I'm saying? So now they're not getting the benefit from it either, so.
But I'm gonna consider the health benefits for the community also when I make
So
a
Dick,
decision
when
on
you
this.
go to Bubble and you take a drink of water, do you know how much fluoride's in
I
that
don't.
couple sips?
No, I don't.
It's parts per billion, there's not much there.
So in natural water, there's 0.4, and then with what we add, we bring it up to only 0.7. So there really isn't that much difference.
And naturally, it's in the water, 0.4.
Yeah, naturally it is, I know.
Yeah.
Other.
So it's just,
All I'm saying is I'm gonna research.
it's an expense.
As we should.
Yeah, I agree.
Everybody
And,
should.
I think it should be a consideration when we make this decision.
Okay.
Well, I've had a lot of more negative about it than I had positive. People ask me all the time. When people move to the country, they call me right away. What do you put in water? Chlorine and fluoride. So the first comment is, well, I guess we're going to buy bottled water. You know, I said, well, you don't have to worry about it because everything's at safe levels. It's all governed by the DNR, and you're tested weekly, monthly. And if anything was wrong, you'd be issuing boiled water, and you wouldn't be drinking it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's safe.
Yeah.
So
They don't have that assurances with bottled water.
you don't have that with bottled water or well water from your tap in the
Well,
country.
Some bottled water is municipal water, so if you look at the labels,
Yeah, some of it is.
it really is, so.
All right. Moving on, I will, next Monday, we are going to have a utility project and planning meeting to go over the wastewater option at 6 o'clock. You will get an agenda. All righty, that's all I have. Mr. Mayor.
Well, I want to thank Tim and the president for setting up that meeting out at the treatment plant. For those of you that haven't spent any time out there, I think it was informative, and I think we have to keep this moving, and the contract is very important, and I think there's a lot of items that are going to be involved with the options of the treatment plant too that have to be taken into consideration with this contract as well. So I think one has to lead into the other one. Order for us to come up with something affordable. We're certainly going to have to look at avenues of finance for something like that with the ticket items that they were throwing out for the cost of these plant improvements. So that's all I have.
We're not the only ones looking at this, guys. Everybody's facing into lower phosphorus levels, ammonia, everything else that's coming down to the point where they don't want any of that being discharged back to the environment. So if we don't do something right now, we're at that crossroad. We're going to be forced to later because we won't be able to meet limits, and then they'll be fining us, and we're spending all kinds of money, for fines and things that we can't deal with. So I know it's hard to swallow, but you're going to swallow it sometime.
And I also put our city clerk on notice that we wanted to step up and see what we can do about that DNR funding for private lead services, and he's got something to report tomorrow at our finance meeting. If you've picked up the paper lately, just about every community's jumping on board with securing financing, so there's no reason we shouldn't also.
Yeah, I had talked to Mike about that a long time ago, and he said they were working on it, but they never got anywhere. Recently, I've talked to different individuals that have filled out that application, and I could get some help with it if he's having trouble.
Well, this one that we're talking about is actually municipality driven,
Right.
not water utility driven.
Right.
It's just strictly for the private lateral replacements from the stop box into the homes and what have you. So hopefully he'll have something good to report tomorrow night.
All right. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? If not,
Move to adjourn.
motion to adjourn by Cheryl,
I'll second it.
second by Bart. I remembered your name. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are adjourned.